he played in the last one, where he gets that third up, he defends it, but then really the goal is to get all your army and all your production out to that forward fifth base, where then you are controlling the middle. A lot of times this will happen right as you're getting your Broodlords out. You maybe even throw down a ton of Spine Crawlers to help with that. And, you know, I'm curious to see if that will, you know, all that practice, all the training that he's been doing on that particular map actually pays off. So let's introduce our players. You want to go?
Yeah, I'll do it. All right, top right, we got our Protoss player from the team, Complexity. He is Complexity Killer, very strong Protoss. And down here at the left, our Zerg from the team, Liquid, a very strong Zerg, always able to take games off of Koreans. He is Liquid Rhett. And I mentioned this before, but I really, really do feel that Rhett is a player that everyone has to take seriously no matter what. He's a foreigner.
Yeah.
He doesn't always show the best results, but if you don't take him seriously, he will crush you. I mean, we saw a crushing defeat last game. That was, Rhett didn't even struggle a little bit. There was like no moment in that game where Rhett seemed to be in trouble. He actually just dominated that game from start to finish.
You know, the other thing I think people got to be scared of as far as Rhett's concerned is that he's obviously very serious about the game right now. And he's always shown that when he has put in the time, when he's put in the effort, when he's put in the practice, even in his Brood War days, and that's how he made it out to Korea in the first place. Did it work out for him? You know, not necessarily. He did end up coming back. But once he really turned it on, once he put his foot to the pedal in StarCraft 2, that's really where we started to see him excel, like many of his fans knew that he could. You know, Killer, on the other hand, a remarkable Protoss player, I do feel like is completely capable of doing what he needs to defeat Rhett.
You know, I feel like Killer, I don't want to say he's in a slump right now, but he's not at his best. And in this matchup, whenever I cast him at the GSR, or whenever I talk to him, he talks about all-ins or he does all-ins. He does not feel comfortable in this matchup like a lot of Protosses have been recently. He feels like a little bit out of a loss with this matchup, and some people have these blocks. Even if the race as a whole is doing well, they might have a mental block. They're like, well, this style that's evolved, I don't like it, or I haven't quite mastered that, or I don't feel as comfortable with that. And Killer has shown several times the proclivity to go for Warp Prism Sentry all-ins with Immortals, or go for a 7-gate attack. We saw him last time do a pretty big commitment to an attack that didn't work, and he ended up losing the game. It's not a matchup where he plays like Huck, where he's on the defensive, he gets an economy-based style going. That's not really how Killer plays things. He's not really a Stargate guy either. He's a player who likes to be on the aggressive, and if someone like Rhett, who's so good at defending, because he usually is the defender, holds off a lot of attacks like that, then what do? It's a frustrating place to be in for Killer when your style is so bad against the player you're playing against.
And you know what? Slumps are not an invisible, mysterious thing. Like, they do exist. We see players go through them quite a bit. And you know what? I think a lot of that has to do with, like you said, you know, changing their styles, maybe trying to overcorrect or trying to change things up a little bit, or just sort of committing to one particular way to play versus another race. And it's very much a real thing. So it's something that I'm glad that you kind of brought that to the table. Let's take a look at what we've got here. As we went with a much more standard build out of Killer to start off. It is 26 probes to 22 drones right now, as we see the powering up of Rhett. Now, he did take his third before the natural, which does... What's that?
I was going to say, yeah, you're right, before the natural, and he also took a third before gas.
Yes, yes.
So very fast third base.
You know, and the other thing that's really interesting, and here we go, a massive drone transfer is going to happen, but only to the natural. And that's one of the things, you know, you can drone transfer to the third, but I mean, it's weird, right?
It's weird, yeah.
How much mining are you losing? You know,
it's not comfortable.
It's not at all, and you never know what could come to the third too. Like, did he go with some sort of fast 2-gate? I mean, he obviously has vision up here, so he is going to be relatively safe about it. But it's always one of those weird things. And even when I watch these types of games, I'm like, is he going to transfer? Is he going to, you know? And I don't know. It's just an odd thing, Wolf.
It absolutely is. You're right. I mean, that's one of the best ways to put it. We have a robotics going down now for Killer, and he's hidden it in the same place he always hides it in when he does his Sentry Immortal.
You think he's going to go for it?
And I think he's going to do it. If I know Killer, man, I think he's absolutely going to do it. Right now, he does not, however, have +1. That's, I think, an oversight for him. He's got 200 gas in the bank. Now he's starting it, but this is really a lot later than I expected. This is something that it may come back to bite him here. Because normally when he does his push, he likes to do it with 1-1. But I don't think if he wants to do it at the normal timing, he might not necessarily have 1-1. He usually does it with 3 Immortals. Brings the Warp Prism just as reinforcement, because if you try to go with the Pylons, it's just not enough. So he used the Warp Prism to reinforce and also to pick up his Immortals to save them. Adding a few gates here. Oh, a robotic support bay, actually. That's not what I expected to see at all.
Well, maybe he will. Maybe he'll still do it. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe that is his. No, he's got double observers coming out, and we'll see what he gets up after that. But we do have some Lings making their way over, checking for that third. Obviously not there quite yet. And first observer is heading on out right now. Warp gate's about to complete.
This is a weird build because this is a build that it's so super fast. Robotic support bay allows you to get the fast Colossi out rather than Immortals, but it's kind of a blind move because he's going to scout the observers now, but he made it before. And what will he do here? Will he go for fast Colossus to try to take a third? That's scary. That's risky because the Colossi, if you have them with no support units, I mean, he has some support units, but he doesn't have a lot. If you go with that, it's a little bit awkward. If your opponent does a big roach attack, you probably won't hold your third. Do you really have the power to attack with the fast 2 Colossus with range? Not really in this matchup.
I'm really concerned for Killer here. We see a 4th going down for Rhett. Now, he's at 100 supply, but soon he is just going to have that adrenaline surge of supply move up. A lot of Lings coming out here. Speed is going to be finishing up. The observer sees everything, and looks like one observer inside the main was taken out as well. And what's going to end up happening is there's the Carapace upgrade, another popular upgrade that we're seeing over the attack versus Protoss. But what I feel is going to happen here is a timing that is just going to potentially roll through Killer. Now, he is going to have a couple Colossus out, but as you mentioned, Wolf, his ground army is going to be abysmal.
It's abysmal indeed. This is the blind move that I'm talking about. You go for this Colossus tech, and your opponent just goes Spire, and he sees it just now, and he's got to be thinking, well, what? I've made the wrong choice here. I don't have a Twilight Council. I don't have Blink. I'm not going to have Blink for a long time. If he goes with Mutas in here, my Colossi are going to be useless.
Yeah, and I mean, he is going Infestation Pit at this point, but here we go. Ling's going to move in. He does see the 1 Colossus, and he also sees the 1 Colossus with a couple of Sentries, a few Zealots, and a Stalker.
It's got to be a great feeling.
Yeah, that exactly. You've got to be just reeling it. And he's already getting this 5th. If he takes control of this, regardless of the fact that Killer has vision, great. That's just even more intimidating. Sure, the 3rd is going up here, and it is finished for Killer.
Yeah.
But I still feel like it's going to leave this massive window. Now, one thing that we are seeing Rhett do is he's going with a much faster hive, so I do not think that, and there's the double Evo.
He's not going Mutalist play here, but
no.
What's scary for Killer is that he committed so much gas early to an aggressive unit that it's awkward to defend with Colossi. I don't like the idea of expanding with Colossus because your opponent, if your opponent's smart, if he sees that, why would he ever attack into Colossi? He just won't. He'll take a 4th base and then take a 5th base and go super fast hive, which is, we have a hive finishing here at 12:30. That's what we have as Killer. Now Killer can't move out with his Colossi really. He's going to try, but his opponent has the ability to shut him down every time. His army is not quite big enough.
Oh, and the Ling run by here is going to possibly go into the natural, but he's just going to catch a couple of Stalkers, and good move because there was a block off there of a few Zealots. But, you know, for someone who's already got an abysmal ground army, losing 2 Stalkers is actually key in a battle like this.
And what Red is doing here is he's not even trying to get a natural, he's forcing Killer to turn around. Killer turned around. He's playing Ring Around the Rosie with Killer here. And Killer is turning around every time. This is allowing Rhett to get closer and closer to that composition he needs. He's getting the very key Corruptors out. He's got enough Infestors here, making some Spines. If he holds this attack from Killer, which he should be able to, he is looking so great.
He doesn't want to take this down. I don't know why he's taking this down right now.
Yeah, this is a little bit weird. I feel like this is... I agree, man. Like, I feel like we're being a bit harsh on Killer, but his strategy here just does not seem to be the correct one. It's a matchup he's struggled with. I said this before, but he just does not seem like he knows what he's doing. Like, all of his movements right now feel a little bit forced or a little bit indecisive. He's got to know his opponent has this many bases, he needs to hit a timing now, but he's like killing rocks and then going back, and now he's like, well, you have Hive Tech and I have no Stargate Tech to get Mothership. You're like about to have Broodlords, but I'm just going to take a 4th.
Yeah,
in the middle of the map where you're about to start sieging me up with broods.
That's in the middle of the map. Taking this 4th is another thing I don't necessarily agree with. But
if he's going to take it, he needs to take it at the bottom right where the Broodlords can't start being aggressive on it. It's like he's playing with sunglasses on right now. Like, he doesn't quite see. Like, he sees it, but he's not sure what to do. He can't really see what the next move is. I don't know how to explain it, but he's like seen the Broodlords, he's seen his opponent's bases, but he's not preparing correctly.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of questionable to take down the rocks and then put your Nexus there, but you know, I'm gonna give Killer the benefit of the doubt here and see what he's gonna do. You know, the first Broodlords are already coming out, the Spine Crawlers are down, and again, as I mentioned, how we're seeing Rhett start to play this map is exactly what he is doing. And you know, whether or not Killer knows this or not, I just have a feeling that Killer is going to be horribly surprised by what will ultimately come out here.
Yeah.
And here we go, one Roach sent into the dust to find out what's going on, and we see the Broodlord moving forward. Remember, we've got a lot of Fungals here, and the Corruptors as well.
To buy the time here. The Corruptors going right to work on the Colossi. Decent Fungals going down here, but Killer continues to break through, at least initially. He killed the Spines while the units were a little bit out of position, but now look at the supply drop for him. He blinks forward again. There are so many Fungals, but they're not enough to kill the Stalkers outright. The Spines are really the damage dealers here, and Rhett says, I know I have enough. He morphs Broodlords defiantly on top of the Stalkers, and Killer has to go back. I mean, you stress enough, I cannot stress it even more. Like, he killed the rocks, he didn't go. He actually walked back and forth towards the creep, then off the creep 3 times, being very indecisive about whether or not he was going to attack, where he was going to attack. Blinks forward again, but this time there are too many Fungals, there are too many Roaches, and Killer's entire army will be decimated here.
Oh yeah, the Lings come out, which is great with no Colossus remaining, and losing those 5 Colossus was just absolutely a terrible, terrible situation for Complexity Killer. We're already seeing a 6th base go up here for Rhett, and honestly, you know, he didn't even attack through that main avenue as well. He decided to swing around to the south, and now this open position, this is going to leave this 4th base just in a horrible position where it can easily be susceptible to attacks, but even more so, what if Rhett slips those Roaches around to the 3rd? You know, then what does Killer do at this point? He's doesn't really have an abundance of cannons.
He's spread so thin. He's still making Colossi right now because he needs to, but he's also making a Stargate because he's trying to get Fleet Beacon tech up. He's in an awkward position. I can't imagine him holding on here too much longer because Rhett just has the perfect spot. I've never seen a more unfortunate combination of a player understanding a matchup so well and a player who seems to not, you know, in a battle like this. It's just so one-sided.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what, you know, Rhett's been working on for quite some time in Daybreak, and he's just going to move these Roaches forward and go ahead and take out the Colossus. He's fighting on forward ground anyway.
22 Roaches in production behind this.
And yeah, I mean, that's it. Also with 3/3 upgrades on the way. As long as he gets rid of the Colossus or even just forces them back, here we go. This base is gone. The Broodlords continue to siege, and you know, although he might be able to get a blink, 6 Stalkers, 5 Stalkers there to be able to do anything. Here's the long distance mining. I mean, this is just complete breakdown here, and Rhett played this beautifully.
He did, man. Killer really showing a little bit of a lack of understanding of this matchup. His move outs were awkward. I mean, take my word for it, guys. You guys are, you know, looking at Adabeezy's screen, but I've been watching like Killer's movements very specifically, like some of the weird ones he's making. He moves out with his entire army, then moves it back, then moves it out again, then moves it back. I'm watching him do this weird dance where it's very clear to me that he's clueless as to what to do in some of these situations with his Colossus expand here, whereas Rhett has actually just done a Spinecrawler cancel to have 214 supply. Like, he knows exactly what to do at every moment.
Yep.
He's so ahead here. His +3 for his Zerglings and Broodlings are about to finish. Fleet Beacon is on the way, but it's about 5 minutes too late. It gets canceled, in fact. He needs the resources for other things.
Yeah, he needs resources to try to stay alive a little bit longer with the, you know, with Rhett's very standard 214 supply army. He's just going to go ahead and move forward. He does drop the Fungals now. Actually, with 3 Colossus out, he's going to, you know, have a little bit of a chance here, but as the Broodlord siege from the back, a few are taken out, and that's going to be it.
So much larva available for Rhett to remax with as well. 8 corruptors being produced. It does not matter. Killer looks like he is dead here. Stalker's warping into Roachfire as the Broodlords continue to siege from afar. Killer trying his best to blink under here. He may get one Broodlord, but he's going to lose all the Stalkers as a result. Now dropping below 100 supply, trying to defend. Rhett breaking in, attacking the natural, sending Roaches down to the 3rd base. Killer does secure the base at the bottom right, and I'm not sure if Rhett even knows about that base. Looks like he just found out with the Zergling, and he's actually just going to send his forces down there to clean this up. There's no static defense there. Broodlords maybe finally cleaned up here.
Oh,
a Manor Hatchery. Oh, man.
Not even one, but actually 4. GG, Rhett, the monster.
Look at him. There he is. There's the monster. And Killer, you know, I said this before, he has been a guy who has been basically all-inning his PvZs. He's said in interviews, he's told me this personally, he does not like PvZ right now. And it showed in his gameplay. He did a weird Colossus expand, which is something a lot of foreign players do. But it's a kind of a style that's been getting more popular recently, but I'm not sure why, because every time I watch it, it fails. The Zerg just goes, well, of course I'm not going to attack into your Colossi. Gets a ton of bases up, techs up very quickly to Hive, and then the Protoss is like, oh, I don't even have a Twilight Council yet. Uh-oh, this is an awkward position.
Right, I'm in a lot of trouble. And, I mean, even from that early moment, the 10, 12-minute mark, it was very evident that Rhett was going to walk away with that. I think that any fans of Rhett or any future fans of Rhett will look at that game and go, I'm betting on the right racehorse, because that was really solid. Now, regardless of whether Killer is slumped in or out or whatever, you know, he's still qualified to get here. And Rhett, remarkable job.
Yeah, he looked so strong, man. He smacked him down. Both of those games, the first game and the second game, I have cast fewer one-sided games than that.
You're right, and you know, well, with the what was it, the 25-minute average time on Cloud Kingdom, nixed, and then Daybreak. I mean, the Hive seems to come earlier and earlier and earlier in Daybreak. You know, from 15 to 14 to 13, and then 12 and a half. But JP, did you get a chance to check that game out, or the series rather?
I was watching that final game in a 12-minute Hive. What?
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
Like how He must have been on at least 80 drones at that point, or Killer just was not.
He did, yeah.
I mean, that's basically ZVP in a nutshell. If you don't harass the Zerg opponent on a map like Daybreak, typically the 3rd base, you'll just see that as the main focal point for the Zerg in the early game. Didn't see it from Killer, and Rhett was like, okay, I'll get a 12-minute Hive, get up to 100 drones there at the end, do whatever I want, and just clearly win the game. And that's exactly what we saw. Rhett was playing his game the way he loves to play StarCraft 2 in that last map.
Yeah, not following necessarily the rule set of a ZVP and just saying, hey, I know what I can do really well on here. I can get my max out. Well, that's definitely what he did on Cloud Kingdom. But in that second game, you know, knowing what he saw, he took that super early 4th as well, and on Daybreak.
He did everything right, man. On Daybreak, he took Broodlords and attacked a Protoss base head on in a position where normally if the Protoss plays well and puts aggression on, that doesn't happen until 10 minutes later. He like skipped 10 minutes of the game. He just jumped ahead and just looked totally awesome.
I'm still a little confused about Killer's decision to take down those rocks in the middle, too.
Well, he was so indecisive. He moved his units towards the rocks and away from them several times. You guys didn't see it on screen, but he was just so indecisive.
Well, we might have a special treat for you guys. Just walking into the studio here, we've got Liquid Rhett, and we were just showering you with praise. Good game. Good game.
Yeah, well done, man.
I got a question, Rhett. I've had a chance to see you recently work on your Daybreak quite a bit, and specifically in ZVP. And everything that you worked on and everything that you kind of were aiming to go for that allowed you to see success was undoubtedly worked out perfect in this matchup. But you look incredibly comfortable with your PvZ right now. That's kind of my first question. Are you? How are you feeling about that? And then second of all, did you expect to, you know, from our seats anyway, it was a one-sided matchup. Did you expect to have a one-sided matchup with Killer?
No, I actually thought it would be pretty difficult. So, but I think the game just planned out really nicely for me with what he did in the first game, because he actually went for pressure. So, maxing out on roaches is really good against that. And because he doesn't know, most likely does not know anything about my play style, I knew that after a first game like that, I could be a little more greedy in the second game. So I think that's why it worked out well. And if the first game is different and I play like that in the first game and he beats me with a timing attack, then the second game wouldn't have been so easy. So it just worked out well for me.
You said greedy in the second game. Like,
well, he said a little bit greedy.
A little
Come
bit
on,
greedy.
Man. That was like the max greedy that you can get a 12-minute high.
No, I've been way greedier.
Well, I actually believe you 100%.
Well, I have a question for you, Rhett. We saw a killer go for, in the second game on Daybreak, it was like a Colossus expand. This is something that a few European pro-wrestlers have done. It seemed like kind of a strange build. And if you face this, you can basically cut all the corners. If he doesn't attack your third, he goes for this Colossus expand. How do you feel about this build PvZ? It seems like really easy for the Zerg to just actually take up the Hive and not spend any money on defending and just go crazy while the pro is taking a Colossus expand, because you're never going to attack into the Colossi. How do you feel about this build?
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy to abuse. It's obviously a very safe build against anyone that will just mass out on units and try to attack into the force fields and the Colossus, so you will never die with this build. But yeah, you can really, just mass drones because, as soon as I realized it would be a 3-base and not a 2-base, I just felt no pressure at all, and I knew I would be fine. So all you need is a Spire and drones, and you're good to go.
Is that why you put the fourth down fairly early, too?
Yeah,
it
I
seemed
think
like your fourth came really early in that second game.
Yeah, my fourth and fifth were actually pretty early.
All right.
So I was actually thinking about going Muta, but I chased away the first observer. And there was a second observer that was like going to my natural and then to my third and saw my Spire. So then I immediately put down the Infestation Pit and decided to go for fast Brood Lords.
Okay, okay. So we're going to have a Nas performance replay, taking a look at that big battle that occurred in game number 2. And this is the point where even though the rocks were broken out, Killer decided to go for it. You'll see that Rhett here, well, maybe Rhett, you could just tell us. You played.
Walk us through this, Rhett.
Yeah, 5 Colossus is kind of scary, and I did lose too many Infestors. But I still had one in the back with enough for 2 fungals, so I was just waiting for him to blink forward, and then I knew he would lose all his army, like happens right here. So I think just a really nice engagement for me. And he really seemed to go for the 3-base timing attack and didn't like go Mothership or Templars or anything. So right after this battle, I pretty much knew it was over.
Yeah, it looked like you had the second row of Spine Crawlers there as well. He couldn't really push it any further forward, and you were just totally set.
Exactly.
Yeah. That was
pretty one-sided best of 3, man.
one-sided.
You actually you crushed him. I mean, it's very clear here. We're watching it again. He seemed very inclined to blink under your Broodlords, even when you had units there. It seemed like he was being a little bit desperate.
Yeah, I think because he massed up like 5 Colossus relatively fast, so I think he was really banking on his Colossus timing working like before Broodlords. And then when he saw Broodlords, I don't think he had an answer, because he had no Stargate even, no Mothership, nothing.
I think he was getting his fleet beacon, but it was a little too late.
Yeah, way too late.
So, Rhett, you're actually going up against Stefano next in the bracket. What do you think about that?
I think that will be a very tough match. I think Stefano played really awesome against Ryung. And, he's known to be really good CVZ, so... But, I haven't actually played him in a tournament ever.
Really?
Really?
No. So, I played him on ladder a bunch. And I do win sometimes, but it's going to be really hard.
And I'm sorry, what do you think your chances are?
I think he's probably the favorite, but I still have a decent chance, so maybe 40 to 60.
Okay. You're feeling like at least pretty good about your ZVZ as of late?
Well, it's a really weird matchup, and
Do you ever really feel good about that matchup?
I know, what a dumb question, Weed. Oh my God, you play Zerg and you're even, I just wait for that one Zerg player to be like, yeah, it's easy.
For me, it's basically like the better my opponent in ZVZ, the better I will do. Like if I play someone that's really random and
I like that.
Yeah, then I often lose. But I think Stefano, I know how he plays. So
okay,
it should be a great match to watch for sure.
Definitely.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, coming up next here on the main stage for the MLG Spring